Endless Space 2 is Amplitude Studios' latest attempt at the Endless franchise, trying to expand on the original Endless Space, which was pretty well received as a 4X game. Now, what Amplitude has always done very well, and this is certainly no exception, is creating a very sleek and simplistic game that's very laser focused on certain areas. This game, much like their others, has an amazing UI, and looks great, and has a lot of personality to it. Now, to start off, Endless Space 2 is a turn-based game that very much feels like Civilization. You pick a starting nation, those have certain differences and bonuses towards particular ways that you can play. It's not like Stellaris, where you kind of pick your own race and then create it. What's really cool about the races in this game is just how different they are. For example, you've got the Vodyani, which are a space-based race. They don't land and colonize planets. They do get resources and benefits from taking them, but they move around giant arc ships that basically claim and control systems much like a planet would. And then you've got the Unfallen, which are a very interesting race that is basically like a giant tree people. They branch out like vines across systems and can then colonize the systems from that way. And then each race comes equipped with its own backstory and quest chain based on that. So for example, the human race, which is a much more standard race in how they play, have a backstory based on a dictatorship and monarchy system. So basically it's kind of a palace intrigue thing of who's going to be the new emperor, who's going to lead the nation, who's trying to sabotage or assassinate people. And those of course aren't all of the races in the game, but all those really add to just how much replayability this game has. There's so much difference between the factions that each one plays like a whole new game. And there's also a political system in the background. So for example, you can have factions like pacifists, militarists, industrialists take control of certain planets and kind of shape that direction and try and push your empire in a certain way. There are ways that you can try and mitigate that or push it in a particular direction, but these also have a large impact on how you play, because if you get a certain party in power, it'll give you benefits and boosts towards particular ways that you can shape your government. Warfare is pretty hands-off for the most part. You do get to design your ships, but it's not very interesting, to be honest. You kind of just pick the best tech you have and throw it on the ships and throw them into battle. And then you watch a cutscene, or you can just skip it if you want, that basically determines the outcome of the battle. The cutscenes do look really good, much like the rest of the game. It's visually impressive, but it's not very hands-on or engaging at all. You kind of just watch it, and after you've seen the 10th one of the same ship types battling it out, you're kind of bored of it, and you're like, I'm just going to click the auto-resolve. There is also ground combat, which is done on a system level. Much like space combat, you're probably going to be skipping it pretty quickly. There's a little bit of a graphic to it. It's not amazing by any means. It's basically just wireframes going at each other. You get a few choices you can make at the beginning of battle, so you can go for like orbital bombardment to just try and obliterate your enemy, or you can go for guerrilla warfare to try and stall out a battle as long as possible and keep the enemy away, because battles have a set amount of time they last for, so you can try and stall a battle out for several turns if you want. And then you've got diplomacy, which is pretty meh for the most part. It's not that interesting. There isn't a lot of choices in it, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense what's really going on. For example, I've had AI that are on the opposite side of the galaxy declare war on me for no reason, and then they can't get their ships to me and I can't get my ships to them, so we basically just end the war like 10 turns later. It's just pointless. It's stupid. And that's kind of a problem with the AI in this game as a whole. It's not very good. You can beat it pretty easily. Overall, Endless Space 2 gets an 8 out of 10. It's a pretty great game that I think does a really great job when it comes to replayability, because each of the races has their own interesting and unique personalities, feel, and lore to them. You've got a fantastic visual and graphical display. The game is just so easy to play and so visually appealing to want to. But there's still a few things that really hold this game back from being a perfect 9 or 10 out of 10, because the AI, the lack of depth in certain areas just kind of hold it back from being that much greater. But it's still a pretty good game, and I'd still highly recommend it to anyone who's looking for a 4X game to play these days.